The cameras hadn't even cooled down from the last scandal when Jasmine decided to flip the entire love and hip-hop universe on its head. Fans are reeling, jaws are dropping, and social media is in flames tonight because Jasmine has just dropped a bombshell so explosive it could shatter Kirk and Rashida's world forever. After years of rumors, whispers, and heated confrontations that everyone thought were just for the cameras, Jasmine went and did the unthinkable. She leaked a DNA test. And not just any test. This one allegedly proves that Kirk Frost, the man who has spent seasons denying, dodging, and swearing on his family's name, is the father of her second baby. Yes, you heard that right. The receipts are out there, the papers are public, and suddenly Kirk can't hide behind his words anymore. The streets are buzzing with questions. How will Rashida react? Will Kirk finally admit to his mess? Or will he try to spin it yet again? And most of all, how will Jasmine use this moment now that she holds the ultimate weapon in her hands? The tension is boiling, and trust me, you won't believe what happens next. The moment Jasmine pressed that post button on her phone, it was like a grenade going off in the middle of Atlanta's tight-knit entertainment circle. Because this wasn't just gossip anymore. This was cold, hard paperwork, black and white proof that Kirk Frost could no longer escape from, and the shockwaves spread faster than wildfire. Fans scrambling to screenshot before anything could be deleted, bloggers rushing to upload reaction videos, and the cast of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta caught completely off guard, especially Rashida, who had been holding onto a fragile sense of peace after years of betrayal, only to have it shattered in one swipe of Jasmine's finger. And sources close to Jasmine claim she was sitting alone in her apartment when she made the decision, pacing back and forth with the envelope in her hand, whispering to herself, "He thought he could play me twice. He thought I'd stay quiet. Not this time." And when she opened her phone, her hands shaking, she didn't just upload a picture of the results, she circled Kirk's name in red. She underlined the word father, and she even added a caption that read, "The truth always comes out, no matter how long you hide it." A move that immediately had fans gasping. Because while people suspected the first child might have been Kirk's, the idea that he could have fathered a second with Jasmine while still married to Rashida was the kind of drama that reality TV execs could only dream of. And within minutes, the post was everywhere. Memes flooding Twitter, Instagram lives buzzing, and people tagging Rashida nonstop with comments like, "Sis, stay strong, and you deserve better." While others egged Jasmine on, calling her queen of receipts and praising her for finally holding Kirk accountable. But the fallout behind the scenes was far from glamorous, because Rashida, who had just been finishing a meeting for her clothing line, was blindsided by the flood of notifications on her phone, scrolling through disbelief as her lips trembled, muttering under her breath, "Not again, Lord, not again," before throwing her phone across the table and storming out of the room, leaving her team stunned. And within the hour, she was at the Frost household, confronting Kirk, who was sitting on the couch in sweats, clearly unprepared for the storm about to hit, and the cameras, which had already been scheduled to film a different storyline, turned to capture every second of the meltdown as Rashida burst through the door yelling, "Explain this right now, Kirk. Explain why the whole world is seeing your name on a DNA test with Jasmine again." And Kirk, caught mid-bite with a plate of food, froze like a man who'd just seen his whole life crumble in front of him, stammering, "Babe, listen. It's not what it looks like. You gotta let me explain." But Rashida cut him off, with fury in her eyes. Don't you dare lie to me again. Not after everything we've been through. Not after I stood by you the first time you embarrassed me in front of the world. You think I'm a fool." And the tension in the room was unbearable. The kind where even the producers didn't know whether to step in or let it play out. Because fans watching this later would be screaming at their screens, unable to believe Kirk's audacity. And in the middle of the chaos, Kirk's phone started blowing up with calls from Scrappy, from Young Jock, from even Mama D, who was already posting on Instagram with her signature messy energy, writing, "See, I always knew Kirk wasn't done with the mess. Poor Rashida, she too good for that man." And the family group chats were a battlefield, with Kirk's kids demanding answers, some siding with their mother, others shocked into silence. While Jasmine herself was on Instagram Live, smirking into the camera, as thousands of fans tuned in, saying, "They told me I was lying. They said I was clout chasing. But guess what, y'all? Paperwork doesn't lie. Kirk, you can't run from this anymore. You can't deny your blood," her voice dripping with both hurt and vengeance. And fans could see the raw emotion in her eyes, a mix of vindication and pain from years of being painted as the villain. And in that moment, the audience didn't know who to root for, because while Rashida's heartbreak was undeniable, Jasmine's truth-telling had a sharp edge of righteousness. But the real question on everyone's mind was, why now? And what did Jasmine stand to gain by detonating this bomb, when she could have easily kept it between lawyers? And that's where the whispers of a deeper motive began. Some fans speculating that Jasmine timed the leak right as the new season was about to start filming, ensuring she would dominate the storyline and secure her spot back on the show, while others believed she was genuinely fed up with Kirk's broken promises. One insider claiming Kirk had been paying her under the table, hush money, basically, but the minute he slipped up, the minute the payments stopped coming, she decided to show the world what she had in her back pocket. And whether it was about revenge, money, or fame, the effect was undeniable. The Frost household was in ruins. Rashida's trust shattered once again. Kirk scrambling for excuses, Jasmine basking in the chaos, and fans perched on the edge of their seats, desperate for the next twist. Because if reality TV had taught them anything, it's that the drama was only just beginning, and this time, there might be no coming back from it. As Rashida's voice echoed through the house, trembling but fierce, "If this is true, Kirk, if you've humiliated me like this again, I swear, it's the end of us. I'm done." The silence after Rashida's words hung heavy in the Frost household. A silence so sharp it could slice through glass, Kirk's eyes darting around like a trapped man searching for an escape route. But there was nowhere to run, no excuse he hadn't already burned in the past, and as the camera zoomed closer, his lips quivered as he tried to muster a response. "Rashida, please, you gotta understand. I don't even know how this happened." But she snapped back, cutting him down with her fury. "You don't know how this happened? Kirk, are you serious right now? You've been creeping, sneaking, and lying to me for years. And every time you swore it was over, every time you swore you were a changed man, and now Jasmine's out here waving around DNA tests like trophies, and you're telling me you don't know?" Her voice broke halfway through, and for a brief moment, the steel in her eyes cracked to reveal a woman exhausted, betrayed, humiliated, and above all heartbroken. And Kirk reached for her hand, whispering, "I love you, you're my wife, you're my everything. Don't let her come between us." But Rashida pulled away, like his touch was poison, tears spilling down her cheeks as she shouted, "She didn't come between us, Kirk, you did." The raw honesty of her words shaking the very foundation of their marriage. And just then, the front door burst open, startling everyone, as it was none other than young Jock and Scrappy, who had been blowing up Kirk's phone nonstop and finally decided to pull up in person, barging into the chaos with cameras scrambling to follow. And Jock, never one to hold his tongue, pointed at Kirk and yelled, "Brr, what the hell you doing, man? You out here making all of us look bad. You a married man, you supposed to be the OG, and you got Jasmine out here clowning you with receipts." While Scrappy shook his head, muttering, "This right here ain't even love and hip-hop no more. This Maury Povich brew," sending the entire house into a frenzy of overlapping voices. Kirk desperately trying to defend himself, Rashida screaming over everyone, "Get out. All of you, just get out of my house." But no one was listening because the drama had already spiraled too far. And outside on the front lawn, producers were scrambling to contain the spectacle as neighbors peeked through curtains, recording clips on their phones that would later hit Shade Room before the episode even aired. And amid the chaos, Jasmine herself decided to drive by, pulling up in a sleek black car with tinted windows, and when she stepped out, the cameras rushed to her, capturing the smirk plastered on her face as she strutted toward the house in a designer tracksuit, holding her phone high like a weapon, shouting, "Y'all wanted proof. Here I am. And I got the paperwork in my bag if anybody wanna question it." Which sent Rashida storming out of the house, her anger boiling over, charging toward Jasmine as the two women faced off on the driveway, fans later describing it as the most explosive moment since the Stevie J and Joe's Line days, with Rashida screaming, "You ruined my life, Jasmine. You've been gunning for me since day one, and you finally got what you wanted." While Jasmine.com, yet fiery, shot back, "Don't twist it, Rashida. I didn't ruin your life. Kirk did. He came to me, not the other way around. And now, you mad at me for showing the truth?" Her words cutting through the night like daggers, and Rashida lunged forward before producers and security rushed to separate them, the women clawing at each other, nails flashing, hair whipping, as bystanders screamed and phones lit up, recording every second. The footage destined to go viral, And all the while, Kirk stood frozen on the porch, his face pale, torn between the two women who had come to define his mess, yelling out, "Stop it! Both of y'all! Stop it!" But his voice was drowned out by the roar of chaos. And fans watching at home would later describe it as the moment Kirk lost all control. The moment his lies caught up to him in the most public, humiliating way possible, and as Jasmine was pulled back toward her car by security, she pointed at Kirk one last time, her voice ringing with venom. "You can't deny me anymore, Kirk. You can't deny your child. This is your blood, and the world knows it now." Before slamming her car door and peeling out of the driveway, leaving behind the sound of Rashida's sobs echoing in the night, and back inside, Scrappy shook his head, muttering, "This right here is about to break Atlanta in half," while Jock added, "Brr, you need to fix this, because Rashida ain't gonna let you slide again, not this time." And Kirk sat down on the couch, burying his face in his hands, whispering to himself, "What have I done?" As Rashida stormed upstairs, slamming the door behind her, leaving the cameras to capture Kirk sitting alone in the ruins of his marriage. The weight of Jasmine's DNA leak pressing down like a coffin lid, and fans knew in that moment that this wasn't just another scandal. This was the unraveling of everything Kirk had tried to protect, and the beginning of a war that would leave no one unscathed. Kirk sat frozen on the couch, the muffled sound of Rashida sobbing upstairs stabbing through the silence like needles. His phone still buzzing nonstop on the table with calls and texts from cast members, bloggers, and even his own family. But he couldn't move, couldn't speak, because deep down he knew the walls had finally closed in on him. And just when he thought the night couldn't get worse, his oldest daughter, Kai, stormed into the house, her face tight with fury after seeing Jasmine's live and the driveway brawl plastered all over social media, shouting, "Dad, what is wrong with you? Do you even care what this is doing to us? To Mom? To the whole family?" And the hurt in her voice cut him deeper than Rashida's anger ever could. But before he could respond, she threw her hands up and said, "You've embarrassed us. Enough. I don't even know who you are anymore," before storming out, slamming the door behind her. And Kirk whispered after her, "Baby, wait," but it was useless, because she was gone, and he was left with nothing but echoes. And as the cameras followed him, stumbling into the kitchen for water, Jock and Scrappy were still lingering, whispering among themselves, trying to figure out how to calm the situation. Jock finally saying, "Brr, this ain't just TV drama no more. This real life. And you about to lose everything." But Kirk shook his head, his voice breaking. "I already lost it, Jock. I already lost everything." And while the men sat in heavy silence, the producers whispered through their earpieces about Jasmine, who was back on Instagram Live, sipping wine, reading comments aloud, laughing as fans flooded her chat with fire emojis and clapping hands. And at one point, she even scrolled up to a comment that said, "Girl, you messy, but we love you for it." To which she smirked and replied, "Messy or not, at least I'm honest." Unlike some people, clearly twisting the knife deeper into Kirk and Rashida's wound. And by the next morning, the drama had escalated into a full-on media circus. TMZ picking up the story, the Shade Room posting split images of Jasmine, holding up her receipts next to a photo of a devastated Rashida, with the caption, "Woo, chilly. Jasmine leaks DNA test, claims Kirk fathered her second child." Rashida yet to respond, sparking thousands of comments, most siding with Rashida. Some defending Jasmine, and others clowning Kirk with gifs and memes. But behind closed doors, the tension only worsened as Rashida refused to speak to Kirk, locking herself in the guest room with her phone off, while Kirk desperately tried knocking on the door, pleading, "Babe, please, let's talk about this. Let me explain. Let me make it right." But she shot back through the wood, her voice hoarse from crying. "There is no making this right. Kirk, you lied to me, you humiliated me, and you did it again. I told you the last time would be the last time, and now here we are. I don't even recognize the man I married anymore." And the coldness in her tone sent Kirk sliding down the door, cradling his head in his arms. But things were about to get even uglier because Jasmine wasn't done, not by a long shot, because later that day she showed up to a filming location unannounced, the very spot Rashida was scheduled to shoot a confessional, walking in with her head high and security trailing her. And the moment Rashida laid eyes on her, the room went dead silent, crew members holding their breath as Rashida whispered, "You got some nerve showing your face here," and Jasmine, unflinching, replied, "I got every right. My truth matters too, and I'm not gonna be silenced anymore." setting off another shouting match that had to be interrupted by producers, Rashida lunging forward as she spat out, "Truth. Don't talk to me about truth when you've been sneaking with my husband behind my back, knowing he got a wife, knowing he got a family." While Jasmine fired back, "Don't put this all on me, Rashida. He's the one who came to me. He's the one who made promises, and he's the one who couldn't. Stay faithful. Don't act like I'm the villain when your husband is the one breaking vows." And fans who later saw snippets of the leaked footage were stunned, divided down the middle. Some applauding Rashida for standing her ground, others saying Jasmine had every right to clap back, and the drama only escalated when Scrappy and Jock tried to intervene, Jock shouting, "Ladies, this ain't it. Y'all both too good for this mess." Kirk, the one that need to answer, "Not y'all fighting each other," but neither woman listened. The rage boiling over to hot, and when Rashida finally stormed out, slamming the studio door behind her, Jasmine turned to the cameras and declared, "I'm not the side chick anymore. I'm the one telling the truth, and the world better get used to it." Sending shockwaves through the fanbase, who flooded Twitter with hashtags like #TeamRasheeda and #JasmineSpillsTea, sparking heated debates. And in the midst of all this, Kirk tried to schedule a private sit-down with Jasmine to convince her to stop talking publicly, meeting her at a quiet restaurant late at night. The cameras secretly following as Kirk leaned in across the table, whispering, "Look, we don't need to do this like this. Okay, you got your point across, but you're hurting everybody, including the kids. Let's figure this out privately." But Jasmine leaned back with a bitter laugh, replying, "Privately? That's funny coming from you, Kirk. You only want things private when it protects you, but when I was hurting, when I was raising a child on my own, when people were calling me a liar and dragging my name, where was the privacy then? No, you don't get to control the narrative anymore." And Kirk's face fell, realizing she wasn't going to back down, that she had finally found her power in the chaos. And as they argued in hushed tones, fans who later saw the scene couldn't help but notice the mix of anger and unresolved tension between them. Some even speculating that Kirk still had feelings for Jasmine despite the destruction around them, a theory that would only add gasoline to an already blazing fire. And by the time the episode wrapped filming, it was clear that this wasn't a storyline anymore, it was a war. And the battlefield was Kirk's marriage, his family, his reputation, and the loyalty of the fans who had once rooted for him. And as Rashida packed her bags in silence, preparing to leave the house with her children, the world wondered if this was truly the end of the Frosts. As we knew them, Rashida's hands shook as she folded clothes into a suitcase, each shirt and pair of jeans feeling heavier than bricks. The silence of the bedroom interrupted only by the faint zip of the luggage and the occasional sniffle she tried to hide from the cameras. But nothing could mask the heartbreak in her eyes as she whispered to herself, "I swore I'd never let him do this to me again, and here I am." And when she stepped out into the hallway with her bags, Kirk was waiting at the bottom of the stairs, his face pale, his voice trembling as he begged, "Babe, please don't leave. Don't do this. Don't let Jasmine take you away from me." But Rashida's glare was like ice, her words slicing through him. "Jasmine didn't take me away, Kirk, you did. You gave her the ammunition, you handed her the weapon, and you pulled the trigger on us." And with that she walked past him, dragging her suitcase out the door, while the cameras caught every second of his desperate attempt to follow her, pleading, "In the driveway, we can fix this. We can go to counseling again. We can work through this like we did before." But Rashida stopped in her tracks, turned to face him, and shouted with tears running down her cheeks, "You broke me once, Kirk, and I rebuilt myself. But this time I don't have anything left to rebuild with," before sliding into her car and slamming the door, leaving Kirk standing in the headlights with his hands pressed against the hood, tears glistening on his face as she drove off into the night. And fans watching later described it as the moment Rashida finally found her strength, refusing to be humiliated a second time. But the fallout didn't end there, because the Frost family drama spilled into the Atlanta streets like gasoline, with celebrities, fellow cast members, and even strangers taking sides. Mama D going live on Instagram to say, "See, I told y'all, Kirk couldn't keep it together. Poor Rashida deserves a real king," while Carly Red, never one to stay quiet, stirred the pot even further by posting a cryptic Instagram story that read, "When you play clown games, you win clown prizes," with a clown emoji and a baby bottle, instantly sending fans into a frenzy speculating whether she was shading Kirk, Jasmine, or both. And in the middle of this circus, Jasmine seized the moment to drop yet another bombshell, an exclusive interview with a popular Atlanta radio show where she doubled down on the DNA leak, claiming she had messages, photos, and even videos of Kirk from the nights they were together. Evidence she had been holding back out of respect but was now willing to release if people kept questioning her truth. And the radio clip went viral within hours, her voice calm but laced with fire, as she said, "People think I'm just trying to break up a happy home. But that home was already cracked before I ever walked in, and Kirk knows it. He told me things about Rashida, about his marriage, that y'all wouldn't even believe, and I'm tired of being painted as the liar." The receipts are endless, her words sending fans into a spiral, demanding to know what those alleged secrets were, and all the while, Kirk was at home spiraling himself, pacing the living room as Jock and Scrappy sat nearby shaking their heads. Jock saying, "Brew, this girl about to bury you alive if you don't get ahead of this," while Scrappy added, "Ain't no getting ahead of it now, she already winning the court of public opinion, and Rashida out the picture, so what you really got left?" And Kirk, voice cracking, muttered, "I just want my family back, I don't care about nothing else." But it was too late, because Rashida was already filming her own confessional. Her face composed but her voice steady as she said, "I've spent years standing by a man who didn't stand by me, and I can't do it anymore. I love my husband, I love my family, but I love myself more, and sometimes walking away is the only way to heal." Words that fans would later quote endlessly, flooding her comment section with heart emojis and messages like "We stan a strong queen and stay free sis," while Jasmine, on the other hand, basked in the attention, booking club appearances and photo shoots, leveraging her villain-truth-teller transformation into social currency. And as the season unfolded, it became clear this storyline wasn't just about infidelity, it was about survival, with Rashida carving out a new path as an independent woman, Jasmine demanding recognition as more than just the other woman, and Kirk stuck in the wreckage of his own making, his reputation shredded, his marriage fractured, his friendships strained. And the producers couldn't have written a better ending if they tried, because in the final explosive scene, the cast gathered at a reunion taping, tensions at an high, Rashida and Jasmine seated on opposite ends of the couch, the host trying to mediate as fans screamed from the audience. And when Kirk was asked point blank, "Do you deny this child is yours?" he sat frozen, sweat glistening on his forehead, his voice barely audible as he whispered, "No, I can't deny it," the confession sending the studio into chaos. The audience gasping, Rashida covering her face as tears streamed down, Jasmine smirking but shaking her head as if to say finally, and in that moment, Kirk's fate was sealed, because no matter what spin he tried to put on it, the truth was out, undeniable, irreversible. And the Frost Empire as fans knew it would never be the same again, leaving everyone wondering, not just about the end of a marriage, but about the beginning of an entirely new era of Atlanta drama that no one could have predicted. The courtroom was thick with an uneasy silence, the kind of silence that doesn't feel empty but instead charged with judgment, fear, and the weight of lives being unraveled in front of an audience. Jasmine stood with her arms folded, her chin raised, her eyes fixed on Kirk as if she had finally conquered the battlefield she had been fighting on for months. The DNA papers were already in the judge's hands, already entered into the official record, and the results were undeniable. Kirk Frost was the father of her child. The whispers in the gallery grew louder, and even though the bailiff tried to hush the noise, the tension couldn't be contained. Rashida sat in the front row, her face caught between shock and anger, her hand trembling against the armrest as if every ounce of her world had been ripped apart in public yet again. She had dealt with rumors, with betrayals, with accusations before. But this written proof left her no defense, no escape, no maybe. Kirk, usually so confident and smooth-talking, now sat slumped like a man who had run out of excuses. His hands covered his face, his shoulders shaking slightly as if he could shield himself from the stares piercing into him from every direction. He didn't even dare look at Rashida because he already knew what he would find there. Disappointment deeper than rage. Heartbreak sharper than any insult. Jasmine, on the other hand, thrived in the spotlight. She had been painted as a liar for so long, dismissed as desperate, ridiculed as another woman trying to tear down a marriage. But now she was the one holding the truth, and it gave her a sense of vindication that dripped off her every word when she finally spoke. "I told y'all I wasn't lying," she said, her voice cutting through the courtroom like a blade. "Everybody wanted to make me out to be crazy, But facts don't lie. And this right here, this is a fact. Keep a fact. Keep. Frost is my baby's father. The judge banged the gavel, demanding order, but the damage was already done. Cameras outside were rolling, blogs were live updating, and fans across the country were ready to dissect every second of what had just unfolded. For Rashida, though, it wasn't about the headlines. It was about the years she had stood by Kirk, the loyalty she had given, the sacrifices she had made, and how once again, he had repaid her with humiliation. Tears welled in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not here, not in front of Jasmine, not in front of Kirk. She stood up, gathering her things with a grace that was more powerful than any outburst. Her silence spoke louder than screams could have. Kirk finally raised his head, reaching out as if to stop her. "Rashida, wait, please let me explain," he stammered, but the words sounded hollow. There was no explanation that could erase DNA results, no story that could rewrite the truth. Jasmine smirked as Rashida walked past her, their eyes locking for a split second, a silent war between wife and mistress, betrayal and survival, dignity and vengeance. Outside the courthouse, the paparazzi were already waiting, flashes exploding like fireworks as Rashida pushed through, head high, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing her broken. Back inside, Kirk sat in defeat while Jasmine leaned back, victorious. The storyline that would dominate the next season of Love and Hip Hop, Atlanta, had just been written in real time. In a courtroom, in black and white ink, the DNA test wasn't just proof of paternity. It was proof of betrayal, of secrets dragged into the light, and of consequences that could no longer be avoided. And as the cameras caught Kirk's broken expression, Jasmine's smug smile, and Rashida's silent strength, it was clear this wasn't the end of the drama. It was only the beginning. As the sun set over Atlanta, casting long shadows across the streets where every whispered rumor could travel faster than a camera flash, the fallout from Jasmine's shocking DNA leak reached a fever pitch. Kirk, once the master at dodging questions and finding his way out of scandals with smooth excuses, was now cornered in the harshest spotlight of his career. The DNA papers were no longer just a piece of gossip, they were a weapon. A revelation that painted him as not only unfaithful but as a father who had tried to bury his responsibilities under layers of denial. Social media had become a battlefield, with hashtags like #KirkExposed, #SecondBabyDrama, and #RASHEEDA deserves better trending across platforms. Fans dissected every frame of old episodes, pulling up clips where Kirk swore he was done lying, only to now be confronted with undeniable evidence that he hadn't just lied, he had built an entire storyline around deception. And Jasmine, emboldened by the attention, began dropping subtle hints on her Instagram stories. Not confirming everything outright, but leaving cryptic captions and blurry pictures that only fueled speculation further. Meanwhile, Rashida found herself caught between rage and numbness. Her once carefully built image of a strong woman holding her family together, now under threat of crumbling in front of millions. The producers of Love and Hip Hop knew this was gold, pure unfiltered chaos that could keep ratings soaring, but behind the cameras, the tension was unbearable. Kirk's phone buzzed constantly with missed calls and angry texts, some from Rashida, others from castmates who wanted answers before they were dragged into the storm. For Kirk, silence was no longer an option, but speaking up meant unraveling lies he had stitched together for years. Would he finally admit the truth and risk losing everything? Or would he double down and let the DNA papers speak louder than he ever could? The streets of Atlanta were buzzing with one question. Was this the final chapter in Kirk and Rashida's tumultuous story? Or the beginning of a scandal so deep it would redefine everything fans thought they knew? Before you click away, let me ask you this. Do you really think this drama is slowing down? Because the truth is, it's only just heating up. If you've been hooked on Kirk, Rashida, Jasmine, and all the chaos unraveling around them, then you know tomorrow's story is always more shocking than today's. Make sure you hit the like button if you're living for every twist. Subscribe, so you don't miss a single update, and turn on the notification bell because the next bombshell is closer than you think. And I want to hear from you. Do you believe Rashida will finally walk away for good? Or will Kirk find a way to pull her back into his mess? Share your thoughts in the comments, because the best theories might just be featured in our next video. Stay tuned, because this saga is far from over, and the next chapter promises to be even wilder than the last.